Dr. Sue from Hella Mental Health. Pretty sad and angry that I have to talk to you today, but I wanted to share some tips about how do we talk to kids about terrible things like gun violence and mass shootings that unfortunately the last few weeks have seen multiple attacks on innocent communities, culminating in yesterday's attack on Uvalde the elementary school. And I found myself spending this morning sending resources to people. So let's talk about this. As an adult, this is already really, really tough, heartbreaking. It's impossible to look at the news without feeling grief and rage. But little kids, even big kids, teenagers, are also experiencing this in the community, in our nation. How do we talk to them about it? It's actually an important thing to think about and prepare yourself if you are a parent, a caregiver, a teacher, anyone who's around kids. Did you know that since 2020, pediatricians are now telling us that for the last 2 years, gun violence is the #1 cause of death for children? So unfortunately, in the US, this is something we need to know how to talk about. First off, I'm going to share some links in the notes for this, information from the National Association of School Psychologists, the American Psychological Association. So take a look for more details. But the real simple things to think about is, one, know your kid's developmental age, right? You should talk about these things in more vague terms, minimal need to know, say for a 5-year-old versus say for a high school student who will know more and will be able to talk more about questions about intent, about meaning and why and what can we do. Maybe for a younger child, all you can say is that something terrible has happened, that you should reassure them about what are you doing in your community, school, and home to ensure their safety and comfort when something very scary and sad has happened, okay? So definitely thinking about their developmental age and how much information is appropriate to share and how much reassurance do they need. And what are the practical reassurances you can do to make sure that they are as safe as possible? Definitely monitor how much news they might be getting. For example, you might not want to tell your 5-year-old a lot of info, but be careful what they might hear from the TV if you're watching, or when you're talking to an adult, they might overhear. Now, you should talk to an adult because it is really important that you have an outlet, that you have self-care and you practice it when you're dealing with terrible, violent, overwhelming news too, right? That we want to model what is self-care. We want to try and stay as calm as possible when we're talking to young people about very scary, out of control feeling things. It doesn't mean you don't have emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say you're really mad, but not to a level that might add to a child feeling more scared that we're out of control, right? It's very matter of fact, just demonstrating that I'm here for you. I want you to talk to me. I want to talk about what we can do for your safety, but I'm also really sad, and that's real, right? We're demonstrating that we have emotions and we have empathy. There are children's books that can also be a guide and something you can talk about together, and I'll put those in the links as well. So there are tools that can help you. And as the weeks, the months, the years go by, being mindful about triggers, that sometimes every new piece of bad news could add to the distress or the fear in children. So checking in often. Sometimes kids might not feel like they have any reaction, or they might seem very brave at first. Sadly, we've had kids say things like, oh, it's okay, we practice like shooter safety drills at school, or we practice lockdowns, I know what to do, right? But checking in with them on how does it impact them. Sometimes just doing the drills are really scary. Just having a lockdown can be really scary. So monitoring how they're kind of handling the news as more info comes out, as new things come and trigger them. So look at the resources. Unfortunately, I have to say, keep them handy. Check in with your kids for the developmental age. Be careful about how much exposure to really traumatic material that you have and also they have access to. Utilize the tools, practice and model self-care even as you're staying empathic. And really thank you to all the caregivers and teachers and parents who are kind of trying to do an impossible thing right now in incredibly stressful and grief-filled times. Thank you so much. Take good care of your own mental health. And definitely if there's other topics and questions, just drop them in the chat and we'll talk about it next time.